Hey everybody, it's me, the Lit teacher, and you will know that there are terms in NCEA English that are pretty difficult to understand. I'm talking about terms like perceptive. That's what you need to be to get excellence, but what does perceptive even mean? I'll be fully honest. Sometimes as a teacher, I'm not even sure that I fully get it. So, in this video series called NCEA English Explained, I'm going to try to take terms like perceptive, like analyze, and like today's term, aspects, and explain them to you because I think the more you know what the terms in the assessment actually mean, the better you are going to do in those assessments. And aspects may be one of the most crucial terms, and yet it is one that students consistently do not know and do not understand. So let's get straight into what aspects are. Okay, so I will start with just broadly what it means. And yeah, spoiler alert, there are 4 aspects in English. They're all in this slideshow, and I'm going to explain each one of them to you. And then at the very end, I'm going to give you a moderately embarrassing acronym that will help you remember them. So let's get straight into talking about what aspects means. Okay, so basically aspects are key elements of a text. Now let's just pause to explain what a text is briefly. A text is just whatever you are studying in English. If you're studying a novel, that's a text. A film, a text. Short story, text. Poem, text. All of those things are considered texts. It's just whatever you are studying. It's the generic word that's used to refer to it. So aspects are key elements of a text, right? And they're really fundamental to 2 things within a text: establishing meaning within the text, and then thinking about how that text was constructed and put together. Now, each of the 4 aspects that I'm about to run through is equally important. There's no one aspect that's maybe more important than the rest, although there is one aspect that students gravitate towards the most popular aspect, if you will, and I'll tell you what that is very, very shortly. Now, in a lot of assessments, whether they're internal or external assessments, you are graded on how well you are able to understand the aspects within a text. And quite specifically, sometimes you need to be able to understand multiple aspects within a text. The exams often specify that you need to discuss more than one. So the first step is knowing, well, what are the 4? Because if you don't know that, then how are you going to discuss more than one aspect in an exam? So let's get into the 4 aspects right now. Here's a beautiful diagram for you. Full disclosure, tried to do a Venn diagram with the overlapping circles. Turns out like a 4-circle Venn diagram is just a terrible idea. It doesn't really work. And yeah, maths people would have told me that like straight away, but I'm an English person. So yeah, I didn't really get it. But anyway, I've come up with this pie chart. What it essentially shows you are the 4 aspects. Each one is an equal part of the pie. In other words, each aspect is as important as the other 3. Okay, so let's just start with the most popular one in the top left, which is ideas, and we'll go around clockwise, and I'll just give you a very brief overview of the 4. So the first one is ideas. 99.9% of you are talking about ideas as soon as you put pen to paper. Ideas are what a text is about at a deeper level. It's often fundamental to an exam question, for instance, that you talk about ideas. Next one we've got is purposes and audiences. Purposes, why a text was created. Audiences, who it was created for. Language features. Now, language features are essentially techniques. I'm going to use those 2 terms basically interchangeably, as I'm sure your teacher probably does, because, yeah, I would say pretty much every English teacher in New Zealand uses language features and techniques interchangeably. They essentially mean the same thing. We're talking here about the use of techniques, the intention of those techniques, and the effect that they have on us. And last but not least is structure. Structure is just how a text is arranged, how a text is organized, essentially how it's been put together. This involves things like a narrative, which I'll touch on shortly as well. Okay, so let's start off with ideas. Now, in NCEA English, ideas can refer to pretty much anything. This is what some of the standards say ideas can refer to. Themes, attitudes, beliefs, experiences, feelings, insights, meanings, opinions, thoughts, understandings. And that's just what they can refer to. Basically, when you're looking at an essay question, chances are the key words in there are in relation to ideas. Things like themes, things like characterization, things like settings. These are all kind of ideas within a text. Sometimes the essay question says the word ideas in it. So basically, ideas are almost anything to do with what a text is about at a deeper level. And ideas are very much open to your interpretation. The emphasis for me is on your interpretation because it's about what you have noticed within a text. In English, it's all about your personal interpretation of things. If you think something's important, if you can make a case for why it's important, if you can back that up with evidence and convince the marker that what you are talking about is kind of right, then you're going to get marks for that. So ideas are all about what you've seen. I might read To Kill a Mockingbird and really gravitate towards an idea like, for instance, the theme of courage, whereas you may read the same novel and gravitate towards a theme like prejudice. We've both read the same text, we've just pulled different ideas out of it. That's just how English works. We all have our original take on things. So that's ideas. Okay, next up's audiences and purposes. Really simple. Audiences, who a text is created for. Now, there can be some complexity here because a text could be created for a very broad audience, i.e., like everybody. That would be the end goal, right? That everybody kind of can access this text and get something from it. But it can also be that texts are created for specific audiences. Like I'm thinking about a text which might be aimed at a certain cultural audience because, the creator of that text came from a certain culture and is really trying to tell that culture's story. That might have a specific target demographic that it's being produced for. There can even be examples where texts are created for sole individuals. Like if you think, for example, of something like a formal letter, well, that's often aimed at a single person trying to write to them directly and talk to them about something specific. So audiences can be super broad, super specific. Now, purposes are why a text is created, and often they are created for a variety of different reasons. Some of the most popular reasons being to entertain us, to inform us, to persuade us, to argue a point, to provoke us to think about something, or a combination of those things. And in essence, if we know who a text was created for and we can work out why it was created, then chances are we're going to understand that text way better. We're probably going to pull the ideas out of it far more easily as well. So audiences and purposes, super important. Okay, next up, it's language features. Okay, so the way that I want you to think about language features is essentially interchangeably with techniques. But another word that I would throw in there to kind of clarify this even further is tools. Language features, techniques, these are the tools that text creators use to create whatever text it is. In the same way that a tradie comes to my house and has a tool bag full of specific tools for specific jobs, when you're creating a text, when you're crafting a text, you have a range of language features, techniques, tools, if you will, that you can use to achieve certain outcomes. So if we're thinking about written texts, for example, like novels, scripts, poems, short stories, whatever, we know that there are certain written techniques, written language features, specific tools that we might use there. Things like metaphor, alliteration, diction, parts of speech, adjectives, adverbs, onomatopoeia, the list goes on. All of those are written techniques that we can use for specific outcomes. Like if I want you to have an emotional reaction to my text, I could use emotive language. If I want you to imagine the sound that's being created there, that's when I would use something like onomatopoeia. Specific techniques, language features, tools for specific jobs. Visual techniques, visual language features are kind of film, television, multimedia specific. So this would be things like framing, wide shots, close-ups, establishing shots, high angle, low angle, stuff like lighting, stuff like editing techniques, for instance, montage, even sound techniques used in film and television can fall under the visual techniques category, things like the soundtrack, things like dialogue. So all of those things constitute visual techniques, visual language features used when you are crafting films, television shows, whatever. And yeah, also oral techniques is something just to touch on here. This would probably be pretty specific if you are doing, say, the oral presentation standard, basically the speech standard. This kind of relates to what I'm doing right now, like speaking, okay? There are certain oral techniques that might be used. For instance, the way that I use my voice, the way that I kind of regulate volume, rhythm, gestures that I might use, body language. all of those things kind of constitute what we might call oral language features or oral techniques. Now, language features are all about intent and crafting. They're used for reasons to craft a text in a certain way, and they're very important to establishing things like the mood or the atmosphere vibe of a text, the tone, the kind of voice that the creator is adopting, and even the specific style of that creator. Think here about like certain film directors who will use certain visual language features because that's part of their cinematic style. It's kind of their trademark. So that is language features for you. Okay, last but not least, structure. Structure is how a text is organized. It's the shape, sequence, and flow of a text. It's essentially the way that it's been put together. This can include things like, and I'm pulling this directly from some of the achievement standards, okay, narrative sequence or story structure, if you will. So, is a story being told in a straight line, linear fashion, beginning, middle, end? Is it non linear, beginning, middle, end, but not necessarily in that order? Or is it kind of an elliptical narrative, and a narrative that kind of maybe moves around a little bit? Maybe it adopts one character's perspective and then it will switch to another character's perspective to give their point of view of a similar event. So, thinking about how the narrative has been constructed, sequenced, how the story has been put together. And this can include specific things like the beginning and the ending. Often we'll see exam questions in the written text or visual text paper that are specific to discussing the beginning and ending of a text. So thinking about how the beginning of a text might hook you in, how the ending of the text might reach a certain climax or resolution, that is super important, obviously, to the overall impact of a text as well. We might even get into nitty-gritty specific elements here. So we might look at structure at kind of more of a micro level, considering things like sentences, sentence construction, paragraphing within a piece of writing, stanza within a poem, like what kind of form has the poem adopted? Has it adopted a kind of four stanza form? Is each stanza an equal number of lines? Why is the text doing that, for example? And even considering, I guess, scenes and sequencing within a film text, for instance, too. And this might lead you to discussing the part of the text versus the whole. A specific achievement standard where this might be pretty important would be something like the close viewing standard, where you're often asked to take a specific scene or sequence within a movie and kind of discuss its relevance in terms of the whole or the broader narrative. So that is structure for you. Okay, so last but not least, how are you going to remember this? Well, here's my kind of like vaguely embarrassing acronym, which my class kind of laughed at me a little bit for when I kind of showed it to them, but I think it's helpful. And yeah, if it helps you remember what the aspects are, then obviously it serves its purpose. It's Lisa, okay? Maybe you want to think about Lisa Simpson. Don't forget Lisa. Lisa was a very good student. I'm sure she would have known what the four aspects in English were. So yeah, L, language features, I, ideas, S, structure, and A, audiences and purposes. And just a closing thought on this, something I maybe should have mentioned at the beginning of the video, is another thing to consider with aspects is that all texts have them, okay? That's probably why we have the four aspects we do, because all texts have these four aspects, right? It'd be a pretty terrible text if there were like no ideas in it, or if there were no language features being used, or if it was like structurally a mess. So all texts have these four aspects in some way, shape, or form, and your job as an English student is to kind of figure out how they've been used and discuss them within an assessment. So, yep, I hope that has been helpful. That is my video on NCEA English Explained, talking about what are aspects. If you have other terms in NCEA English that you don't understand, like stuff like perceptive, for example, which I probably will do a video on in the future, then drop me a line in the comments. I'm more than happy to entertain doing a video on a specific term that you find troubling. Because, yeah, as a teacher, I know there are plenty that I struggle with as well. And I'm just being honest there. That's NCEA English for you. Okay, so by any stretch of the imagination, this is me trying to wrap up my video, which I always do a terrible job of. If you like what I'm doing, please like and subscribe to my Lit Teacher channel. And as always, I appreciate you watching. Until next time, ka kite.